Okay. I'm back. Let's dive back into this. So we have a door here that is locked, and nothing unlocks it. That door stays locked the entire game. This is the dining room again, as you were. And this is where we had... Yep, there's the pantry in there. We did step into this hallway briefly. Yeah, just entered it from this side. Dun 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 dun! Ah! Yeah, we don't need to bother them. Let's go to this side instead. This door is locked, but we have the key for it. And we don't need that key anymore, and you know what that means. It means we throw it. Why would a key be in a pantry? Because it's a key to a wine cellar. Now, those rats that you see wandering around there are actually rather insidious. But, they can be avoided. Hey, some bullets. Oh dear. I will take this block out from behind those casks, but then quickly back up so that I don't get crushed by them. And I will search this. Hey, another book. Now, that hole that I exposed behind the casks, I'm sure you'd like to... Oh, there's nothing among the wine racks, by the way. Oh dear. You can't really fight the rats. At least they're in... You can sort of knock them back, but they are invincible. They can't actually be destroyed. In case you were wondering what's this way... Yeah, we are not gonna mess with that. We are not gonna mess with that at all. We are out of here. Rat coming. Carnby, if you could... Thank you! And let's just get out of here. Got what we came for. Yeah. Known specifically as a Chthonian worm. Yeah. You can't really do anything about that guy. And what we have this way... a statue. Nice pleasant little room here. But what I really want to show you is this way. Ballroom. Now, I don't blame you if you've lost track of exactly where we are, but when I said there was a door earlier that locks and stays locked, and you can never open it, it's this door right here. Carnby's in front of it. It's the other side of this one. So getting into here, you either have to wander in through this room here with the statue, or, come in through the door back here, which is also locked, and I do not have the key for it. Now, you may see what presumably looks like a ballroom, and I'm sure it is, and some ghostly-looking dancers ready, seemingly waiting for the music to start. And on the mantle, behind them, sits a key. Thumb time! maybe I should just try to... Oh, my word. You know how that goes. But I'll just load this right back up again, shall I? Over here we have... another record. Waiting for the music to start. Well, I already told you that this is a red herring, and indeed... they seem to dislike this music, it says. Let's instead try this record. They seem to dislike this music. I like the music, though. Very famous composition. Oh, it's not showing because it's in the gramophone right now. Yep. Strauss's Blue Danube. It will sound familiar to you in a moment. Yeah. Exploding Blue Danube. It does keep going. But yeah, there is a third record in the game, and that's actually the one I need. That is the one I need. Alright, so, Myth of the Golden Fleece. May Artemis guide us as though we were an arrow from her quiver. This statue has a quiver. As a matter of fact, my understanding is that goat you see beside her actually ties into the whole Greek mythology thing as well. So yeah, that bow we were carrying, if we search this statue, that's where the arrows are. Oh, whoops. That's alright, I really only need the one, I think. But here's the problem. Yeah, we aren't alone in here. Well, we can probably drop some of these things, right? Let's just get out of here. Those spiders home in on you and they cannot be eliminated at all. It is actually possible to lure them off to the side and still skirt around them. They can be manipulated, but it's intended to essentially block this room once you've grabbed the arrows. That's okay. I've got another way to get in there. Also, maybe I should do something about all this weight that I am carrying. I think I still have an unread book or two. I haven't read Jeremy's notebook yet. So maybe here... yeah, let's read to the pirate. First, here's that book that we got from the wine cellar. The Trial of Captain Pregst. I think that's how you pronounce that. As reported by his faithful companion, Elisha Smith, known amongst his fraternity by the awful name of Captain Eli Hell. Transcribed from the log found aboard the wreck of the frigate Astarte by H. Hartwood. Puzzle pieces starting to come together. "By all the devils!" roared Prext, glaring at William the judge. "Curse it, Will, it would take much more than every cannon in the blasted Navy to make me change my mind. You're the greatest blackguard that ever joined our fraternity. Am I not Prext, captain of the Astarte, and bloodiest villain in all the seven seas? Bloody Ezek, they call me. And you think I'll tell you where I hid my treasure?" The tribunal of the Corsairs fraternity murmured at this. Prext was indeed all he claimed. The judge, One-Eyed William, slammed his fist on the table and silence was restored. "Shut your mouth, Prext. You didn't pay the fraternity its rightful share, and that means only one thing. You'll hang by the neck from a yardarm, you scurvy cur. Here's the rope, twisted by Satan himself. You threaten me, Will? Many a man better than yourself has lived to regret holding a cutlass in my face. You'll be begging for mercy, mark my words. That shook One-Eyed William, and no mistake. Danny waved his hook in the air and shouted, Prext always was a loudmouth! The law says we hang him! The jurors took up the cry, Hang him! It was Prext's turn to slam his fist on the table. He threw back his head and roared with laughter. You fools! You want to kill what will never die? Try it! Once more the assembled corsairs murmured. There was unease in the air. They remembered what happened to Chuck the Gizzard Slitter, the man who... We join Clagnut, son of Spadge. The man who opened his mouth once too often. It was night, and a bitter wind whipped the New England coast. Snug inside the Dead Horse Inn, one of the Astartes men was talking. His name was Chuck, and his subject was black magic. He told stories of human sacrifices, voodoo rites, and zombies. He told a tale of a time when their luck was down and they were holed up in a Florida swamp. Prext went missing. When he returned, he shouted, "'Tis the devil that guides us now, me hearties!" Whether that was true or not, the Astarte began taking loot after juicy loot. The favorite song of the Astartes men, Crash the Bones, was replaced by a new one. A skull go to port, saber to starboard, pass over that will, and with death you'll deal. If you cut a rope, cut the right, I hope, or then I don't mind the death you will find. The next day, as you may have guessed, Chuck's body was found with a dagger plunged between his shoulder blades. Chuck's face was fixed in a ghastly grin. Molten lead had been poured down his throat. Whatever way things happened next, and I don't have the details, Prext was with us again, and we set sail for Florida. We anchored the frigate not far from New Orleans. Taking a few trusted companions with him, Prext set off into the swamp. They carried large wooden chests with them. 2 days later, we heard shots being fired, and screams. Prext arrived soon after that and claimed they'd been attacked by alligators. He alone managed to escape with his life. He went on to say that the time had come to share out the spoils of our many loots. I was given command of the Astarte, while Prext handed 3 chests over to the crew. The chests were full of gold and precious gemstones. The rum flowed that night, and the stars shone bright. All at once, I noticed a tall man dressed in black. Prext introduced him to me. "Here's our hearty mate. You can call him Keith. Many a tale he could tell." Prext laughed loudly and held up a roll of parchment. "And his hideout! None better!" The parchment fell to the ground, partly unrolling. I noticed what seemed to be a map of underground tunnels, a veritable maze of caverns. Prext continued, "I'm giving up the pirate's life. The Astarte's in your hands now, my lad. She's a fine ship, and my reputation goes with her. Should any man call me coward, then break his head for me. I'm leaving you only because I've found a treasure more precious than the purest of gold. Ha ha ha!" Keith spoke to him then. "It is midnight. They are ready, and we must go." The stranger turned his cold eyes on me and said in a soft, chilling voice, "Sometimes Prext talks too much. Forget what he just said, and maybe you'll live." The fellow's words froze the marrow in my bones, and it was all I could do to mumble, "I'll not breathe a word." The canoe slid away into the night. Their torches disappeared in the distance of the swamp. My snoring companions didn't hear the insidious rhythm of far-off drums. So we have a a pirate involved now, and sure enough, there's a pirate in the next room there. It's not Prext, though, as you might think. It is actually somebody else. Well, let's see. As much as I like that music, don't need that. I don't need this either. Useful though the trial of Captain Prext is, we don't need that either. Get that set down. Apparently he set it down under the record, but that's okay. The block from the casks in the wine cellar, we don't need that, and that's clearly a sizable thing. Here's another book. Let's read this one. Memories by Alistair Boleskine, printed in London, A. Markin editor, 1833. It was during a conversation with G that one first heard of the New England fishing village of I. Yeah. Because Chaosium said, They, kind of censored things at the last minute there, just using initials. Presumably the I would be Innsmouth. But I think you'll find that Shadow of the Comet actually takes place in a very similarly named town that begins with the letter I. And so presumably they're once again referencing that game here. Yeah, ends with I and ends with Innsmouth, or something very similar, yes. The area was apparently the ideal place from which to witness unusual phenomena in space. Referencing that other book, right? The quality of the air, along with the conjunction of several favorable factors, made one impatient to get started. Having gleaned what information one could from the British Museum, one set off with all haste. One's work on space and comets in particular had met with a warm response, and one thought it judicious to include several original sketches of the phenomenon, sketches which one felt were sure to arouse a great deal of keen interest in the scientific circles of 1834. One refers naturally to the passage of Halley's Comet. Editor's note: Lord Boleskine's memoirs end at this point. Who knows what extraordinary contributions he might still have made had he not succumbed, during his visit to New England, to dementia, followed by an early death in St. Andrew's Hospital. Shame that. Well, let's part with that book too. Seeing lots of stuff out of the inventory here. Diary of a Journey I didn't actually dump at the time. It is important that I empty all this stuff out, as perhaps you've already noticed. And let's see. I think it's about time I read that notebook. We have Jeremy's suicide letter. Here's his diary. This is the longest text in the game. I apologize in advance. Alright, here we go. Oh, and by the way, it has been pointed out that the various dates used in this notebook don't seem to make much sense with what would be the chronology of the rest of the game. At least as far as, say, like that mystery examiner that came with the game goes. Oh yeah, I suppose I should show that off too, huh? Well, I unfortunately don't have the actual document, but I was able to find a PDF for it on the Replacement Docs website here. A tragedy in Louisiana. The Louisiana police returned with a verdict of suicide. This is dated August 25th, 1924, so, yeah, already we sort of have a problem. Talking about the death of Hartwood here, since this is dated after that. Yeah, take things as you will. In case you were curious, I will read this for you here. When Tragedy Strikes, by William J. Herbert, editor of the Mystery Examiner, it is with heavy hearts that we announce the death of Jeremy Hartwood. Our readers will never forget his outstanding talent, first revealed in the columns of this newspaper. The son of a respected Arkham family, Jeremy's interest in the arts was encouraged by numerous fine teachers. He himself spoke often of Pickman, who introduced Jeremy to the wonders of painting. Hartwood's very first sketch for this newspaper is still famous. Our extensive investigations into the Isthmus affair fired the imagination of our youngest staff member. The boldness of his draftsmanship, coupled with the uncompromising vigor of his palette, shed a chilling light on the sinister tragedy that befell that unhappy New England town. Our paths separated, and yet each time the balmy Louisiana breeze carried him home, he never omitted to drop by to, quote, sniff the final proof, unquote, as he invariably put it. He knew the welcome would always be friendly and heartfelt. We won't forget Jeremy Hartwood, an artist whose talent filled so many of us with wonder. To have been a friend to such a man is a source of pride. His memory will forever be in my heart. The rest of this document, talking a bit about some others talking about the death of Hartwood. An advertisement for the lantern. The Lux oil lamp is truly miraculous. Completely shock resistant thanks to its handsome copper oil tank, the Lux Wonder Lamp can be cleaned in a jiffy. Its extra long wick and unbreakable glass guarantee many hours of trouble-free light. Yeah, about that unbreakable glass, but that would be spoiling something. A bit of a discussion about Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Born in Providence, Rhode Island. Talk about mental disorders, which is more backstory-esque kind of deals. A tiny bit of a story about a pirate tale written by Howard Hartwood, Jeremy's father. So there's another dot connected for you. And yeah, just some game credits and whatnot on that page there. And the back cover, it talks about the revolver and some random what would look like a period ad for a for performance. So that's that for the Mystery Examiner. Let me get that out of the way and actually read this. I have decided to keep this diary. Too many inexplicable events have taken place recently. Never have dreams so haunted my every waking moment. Perhaps my romantic mind was too dull and has only now woken up to these new paths and visions. Some, seeing my recent paintings, may question my sanity. I can only ask them, what is sanity? Where does madness begin? September 28th. The night is pitch black. I am again drenched in sweat. I was wandering in dunes among giant standing stones. They were arranged in a circle, and the wind whistled about them. I plunged my hand into the soil and felt that repulsive thing which was trying to catch me. It seized me. I struggled to break free of its loathsome embrace and managed to tear my hand away. It was covered in sticky substance. I was gripping a knife. October 5th. The stone circle is a pentacle. Derceto's library is filled with books on the occult. I will study those books until I find some explanation for the dreams. The visions that haunt me must be connected to my discoveries. I shall have to undertake a profound exploration of my dreams. December 16th. Dear God! I have found the knife! It was hidden here, and what I have learned fills me with apprehension. It is a sacrificial dagger belonging to some unholy cult. The thought of that blade tearing through human flesh horrifies me. Yet I must continue my research. Derceto is a storehouse of treasures. Was my father right after all? January 23rd. I spend all my days plunged in dusty books. The servants are convinced I am mad. At night I awaken them with my screams. The dreams are draining what sanity I still have. I have tried staying awake, but in vain. My visions have changed, no doubt the influence of my father's research. February 7th. The Dark Man, that is what I call him, has revealed his true face to me. He appeared, as usual, near the fireplace, but this time he approached me. His terrible smile will haunt me to my dying day. His breath was ice, and his burning eyes froze me. I could not move. I know, as surely as I have ever known anything, that the face I saw, the face that has turned my nights into hellish torture, is the mask of death. March 10th. My exhaustion is beyond description. The endless reading burns my eyes. It seems that pirates frequented the area. Dr. Herbert insists I keep to my bed. I have moved to another bedroom and sleep much better now. The Dark Man has not gone, however. I know it. He will wait for as long as he must. Unless I, Jeremy Hartwood, can find a way to send him back to whatever hell he comes from. March 11. My poor knowledge of Greek and Latin are a serious handicap to my reading. I have nevertheless made a great step forward. I drew the symbol on the floor. He can no longer go there. I want him to understand that I can do the same thing in my bedroom. I can imagine his rage and frustration. Only last night he found his way back into my dreams. March 13. The translation will seriously dent what money I have left. I cannot paint. My pictures are clearly the work of a lunatic. The collector Thornhill's embarrassed smile was proof of that. March 29. He has come back. He found the door to my dreams. I am too weary to attempt any defense. I have no strength left to fight, and he knows it. He considers me dead already. Could I possibly... March 30. How ironic. The cave my father sought for so many years is here, beneath the house. Waits, the butler, discovered a crack in the cellar wall. A breeze blows in through it, icy and repugnant. I am filled with horror at the thought of my father dying in this place. I will carry to my grave the vision of his face contorted in the agony of that fatal heart attack. His body was twisted. He had wept. His fingernails were torn and bloody from scrabbling at the floor. Dr. Gray concluded that death had been due to a heart attack. It was Waits who, sometime later, was informed that my poor father had in fact bitten off his tongue and choked on his own blood. March 31. I explored the caverns in a dream. The dark man came with me. Strangely, I felt almost well. How can I describe what I saw? No. What words are capable of explaining such evil? I realized that my death was of no interest to him. The dark man wants something else. He seeks a body. His avid servants are now free. I am the cause. It is almost funny. A curse is on Derceto, from the foundations to the very rooftop. I can no longer struggle, let alone eradicate the evil that grips the house. The end is very near. I can feel it. I have taken the decision to... May he who finds this diary pray for my soul. Well, we know how that ended. They didn't want him dead. They needed him alive. They seek a vessel, which he denied them by killing himself. Well, let's see if we can actually stop this horror. Cut it off at the source, shall we? There's a pirate in the next room. I've got a sword right here. Now, there are maybe 2 things in this game that might actually end up causing me to fail and die, despite my best efforts. So I'm actually going to make a safety save here, because this is one of the 2. The fight with the pirate is very much one of these things that I do not have down to a science yet. Yes, you do in fact need to use the sword to fight him. He's immune to literally everything else. Well, you can shoot him with the rifle or a bullet, but he will just perform a backflip and then laugh at you. If you want to beat the pirate, you actually have to do it with a fair, proper duel. He lives to block, but he can be hit out of his attacks, which I'm doing better than I usually do. And once I have him down into a corner, it usually goes a lot more smoothly. He also seems to like to react to your blows. If you alternate left and right, even not finishing your attacks before you start the next one, he seems to have trouble parrying that. And that was actually a flawless fight against the pirate. That may be the first time I've ever done that. Whew. That usually goes a lot uglier. He did drop a key, and perhaps unsurprisingly, it opens this door right here. And this is the aforementioned other way into the ballroom, so I don't have to deal with those spiders anymore. But again, I need another album. I don't have what I need for that yet. Oh yeah, the key to the dance hall. Don't need you. Bye. Now, you may or may not have seen it when the camera was at this angle, but there's actually a book hiding here. So I will take that and read it. Demonia Particularis, Signs and Rituals, by Heinrich Kassel, Ring Publications. The ritual of invocation demands that the officiant be pure. We have already described the complex operations to be followed in order to call those that sleep in superior dimensions. We shall for the present limit ourselves to the sign of mutual recognition used amongst their number by adepts of the cult of the Old Ones. The sign also serves as protection when in the presence of a servant of evil. The sign resembles a blessing, save that the first and little fingers are both folded beneath the thumb, whilst the second and third fingers are held up. It would appear that this sign has no effect on adepts of a certain rank with knowledge of a particular secrets... Oh, excuse me, I don't know why I added the word A in there. Of a certain rank with knowledge of particular secrets contained in the Corpus Demonicus. The use of such signs is not without considerable risk to the user during any attempt to call upon those from without. That is probably the least useful book in the game. Bye. Okay. Oh, some bullets. Let's put them in the revolver. We got 18 shots in there now. Okay. I will hold on to Heartwood's stuff for posterity here. I now have everything I need in order to... Oops, not fight. Open search. Alright, you remember that one hallway, that gallery that I left behind, as it were, on the upper floor? I am now going to go down there. Jeremy Heartwood said he changed what bedroom he was in, and you may have noticed that all the bedrooms we visited so far didn't look like they were slept in. That's because he moved to the one at the end of the gallery. But, that gallery, as it happens, is guarded. Two of the paintings are actually animated. And are a severe problem. Yeah. So I'm going to have a critique to levy here, but to start with, I'm just going to go through this. So here we have this frontiersman. Now, you may wonder what the danger here is. Dumb time! Ooh, what a lovely hallway. All these beautiful paintings. How about I just wander down the... Oh, my word. And they don't stop either. I can just barely keep a pace of it if I run. But now I'm going to get shot at from the other side. By arrows. And down he goes. Right. And he's going to get dragged away again. So, how do we not befall that fate? Well, this particular painting that we can get right in the face of, you might remember this we grabbed from the very first room. Yeah. This was like the hardest thing for me to figure out when I was first going through this game as a kid. Now, I'm going to make another safety save here, because I might very well screw this up horrendously. I hope I don't. But because I've only got the one arrow, and I'm too lazy to go back and try to get the others from the spiders. It's really not worth the time. I am going to simply save the game and try to one-shot this. Try to get my arrow lined up with the planks. Oh, I don't seem to be going straight down the hallway. Yeah, I seem to be at an angle here. Normally, you would grab 3 arrows from the statue and you can adjust your aim as you go. You may remember that I mentioned that the bow was completely optional. That's because you can simply throw the arrow for the same effect. As a matter of fact, it might even be easier and safer to do that. I think I'm lined up, but just in case I'm not. You can save this game as often as you like, anywhere you want. Yeah, I went left. Oh, that was good enough! That was good enough! Okay. Good. So I can still officially 1cc this then. Alright. I do not need the bow anymore. That was the one thing I needed bow and arrow for. So, let's just throw the bow too. You will actually not see any change in the painting, but yeah, the duty was done. There we go. There's the camera angle changing. Now, so here's my own little personal input here. I have to say this. If I were to redesign this game, if I were to make a modern remake of it, and I should mention that somebody actually did try to. Eden Games, the company that made the, I want to say it was 2008 game for the Xbox 360 and other platforms, also titled just Alone in the Dark. They were working on an HD remake of this game, of the original, and you can find footage of what they had developed before it was canceled on YouTube. Man, I wish they had actually made that because it looks awesome. But at any rate, I really feel if I were remaking this game, I would take this painting here, the Indian, at the end of the corridor here, and that trapper, and swap the two paintings, and I will tell you why. Because, A, I think it's a more fitting choice of weapon to use the arrow against the trapper, because that would seem to be a fairly straightforward thing. That, and you've got, the Indian opposite, which is shooting arrows straight across anyway. In fact, I might even have it set up in such a way that if you were to simply try to run down the hallway and those arrows come out, they would actually take out the trapper to sort of figure that out for yourself. But, alright, so this would still be shooting arrows, but it would be at the front end of the hallway, and then you'd have the hatchets coming from the back end. That's what I would do. And the reason why is, A, because I think it makes more sense to use the arrow as a weapon against the trapper than against the Native American here, because it would be, the Native American typically firing the arrows themselves. And more importantly, it means that you would be using the old Indian cover to cover the old Indian, which would have been an extremely clever way of putting a puzzle together. I really do feel like they missed a trick there. I feel like they missed a big trick there. But, at any rate, this is what we came down this way for. This is the bedroom where Jeremy has actually been sleeping. We come around this way. Yeah. Well, what have we got around here? Quite a few things. Nothing with the chair. Obviously, there's a book here. This looks different from the other books, doesn't it? And then they suddenly give us this camera angle, making you wonder if something is going to pop through the window. Nothing does. And, yeah, there won't be much to read here. The fake book. And then we have this clock, which is modeled in 3D, and you can just see a crack behind it. That's a brainer. Haven't used this push command in a while. Search that, and we have ourselves a very fancy looking key and a piece of parchment. I will read that. The Creatures of Night by Hubertus the Bald, translated from Latin by his brother in prayer, Frater Johann Marcus. Of monstrosity. You who read me know that night engenders monsters and that night creatures exist. The accursed book of Abdul al-Azred is clear on this matter. That is not dead which can eternal lie. Unhappy he who knows that book, unhappy he whose eyes alight upon that foulest of texts, unhappy he who implores the standing stones, for he will free the powers of darkness. You might want to remember that. It will be coming up later. Of the pit. Stagnant waters are like the memory of men. Beneath the surface calm, clawed beasts await and are known to initiates as the Deep Ones. Awaiting his prey, the Deep One seizes him and drags him down to the abyss, where Dagon the cruel... I'm sorry, my brain immediately went to drags him down to the abyss, where Boggy then rained 3 cows upon his head, and once again the cry was heard far across the land, "We've won the war!" Anyway, where Dagon the cruel god swims and reveres him whose name may not be pronounced. Of libraries. Unhappy he who frees the prowler, unhappy he who meets the prowler erring among the books. He generates the vagabond that comes from other spheres. He believes the vagabond does not exist. He will feel the embrace of death, for, in the eyes of the vagabond, books are no more than dreams, stone no more than wind. The vagabond knows how to take the breath of the reckless. You'll be quizzed on that, too. Of strife. He who speaks does not know, and believes he is able to kill the creatures of the night. Folly. Evil is conjured up by science and secrecy. He who prowls among books will perish by the blade. He who flies in the dark caverns will scream in fear. He who swims in the depths will evaporate. But he... Oops, I must have hit the wrong button there. Let's try that again. But he who believes he knows, knows nothing. He who knows... says nothing. Of death. There are domains more terrible than death. That is not dead which can eternal lie. Each creature is conjured up and is not dead, but returns to the origins. A monster, a science. Steel kills the vagabond who never dies. Translator's note. Here ends the manuscript of Hubertus, who died in the library of the convent of Taruella in the year of our Lord 1666. Requiescat in pace. Well, yeah, a lot about the library. And that's a good time to get that information, because the library's right over this way. So here we have some other paintings hanging along here, and these are apparently sort of concept sketches for... I don't think it was Shadow of the Comet. I think it was the third game that they were planning for that series they wanted to make of it. I think it would have been called something like The Ice Prisoner or something along those lines. Oh, I do not need that bow. Now, you may have noticed a door there, and that does in fact lead to the library. But first, let's take a look at this painting. Music tells you there's something important going on here. You might remember that Jeremy's paintings came from his dreams. Well, this is a painting of a tree in an underwater cavern. And there appears to be a fire going on. This is the the hint, as it were, as to how to beat the game. Even though you can chicken out and read it in here, as I mentioned earlier, no, there's your hint right there. You need to kill it with fire. Also, this particular painting here is just kind of creepy. I suppose it's supposed to be that dark man that he referred to. So, the library is in the dark. So let's get out that oil lamp and set it down here in the open. And we are going to have a problem in the very near future. Because we are not alone in this dark. That vagabond the book was talking about, you're looking at him. And that son of a bitch will walk straight through the walls. So, how about we not stick around just yet? That false book is used for this contraption that I'm standing in front of. I suppose I could actually quickly search it. Yeah, there's a mechanism to trigger. So let's stick that false book in there. And then this opens up. Run, Carnby. Carnby! That's alright. You're close enough. And now we're in this secret back room. The vagabond will not follow us in here. And here we have a room of very, very important things. First and foremost, this talisman. We will take that. We will need that. Nothing else to be found here. But there is also a shelf here with quite a few things. Several daggers. This one looks particularly interesting. I'll take that one. That one just looks like a kitchen knife. I'll leave that one behind, and, well, that one looks kind of like something a pirate might carry, but yeah, we don't need that one either. A parchment that I will take, another parchment that I will take, a book that I will take, another book that I will take. Yeah, quite a few things here. You may notice that this book looks different from the rest. Thumb time! This is amusing. This is very amusing. Okay, so let's read this gold book, shall we? Luic Prin, de vermis mysteriis. In nomine invocatoris si non sanctificatus est cave, de vermis mysteriis non absolvo folum legendum fatum versus, dibi magnum inum... Damn it. Oh, whatever. He's dead. Something similar to that, yes. Translated from Latin, that would actually be, I believe, the mysterious worm. And it's about that Chthonian that we saw in the tunnels down there. But yeah, you cannot read that book safely and live. He doesn't even get through the first page, he's dead. So let's load that save up. You actually can safely open that book, although Carnby won't read any further than that. You might remember from the notebook, Jeremy's diary, about the symbol on the floor. While you are standing there, you actually can read this, or at least as far as that. And he's fine. He is safe. So, we don't need that crap. Get rid of that useless piece of garbage. And do a little bit more reading. And we are in a library. There are going to be 4 more books in here once we deal with the vagabond. Juan Luis Jorge, de Biblioteca, Reflections on the Power of the Verb in Certain Texts. Archaeos Publications, 1919, Stafford. Translation does not alter the occult power contained within such forbidden texts. The malevolent energy is in no way diminished. The spell must be cast aloud and clearly in certain languages or little-known dialects. Loflogftang. The reader will understand that in the light of these revelations, I would be foolhardy to continue quoting from the text I have before me. If spoken aloud in its entirety, it would surely awaken powerful and malignant forces. I will go further and say that the simple reading of some of the more technical passages describing specific practices is in itself a perilous exercise. The ill-prepared reader can easily fall prey to attacks of demented hysteria, not unlike those described in cases of individuals said to be possessed by evil spirits. Footnote marker. I recommend the study made by Zempf, Urbain Grandier, and Loudon, and the reports made by the Reverend Richard Price concerning a number of astonishing, to say the least, exorcisms carried out in a parish near Providence. Given what I have written, we must be grateful to the librarians of the British Museum who have never allowed consultation of the work of Al-Azif's startling work, the infamous Necronomicon. Copies of that work do exist in spite of the zeal of book-burning inquisitors. For proof we need look no further than the British Museum, of course, and the sealed archives of the Miskatonic University in Arkham. Other examples of books whose evil can be unleashed by any thoughtless reader are von Junz's von Osch... crap, that's something German. An Aussprechlichen Kulten, and the abominable Der Vermis Mysteries by Ludwig Prynne, whose sordid death should be a lesson to all those tempted by a study of the occult. This is like that time when I was playing Maniac Mansion for the first time. It's like, oh, I've drained the pool, there's a button down there, let me press it. Oh, game over, the entire house blew up. It didn't occur to me until later on. It's like, read button? Does that make any sense? Oh, the game's now telling me that there's a bit of text by it that says, do not press. Yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate it. So yeah, those who had the foresight to read the book that looks like all the other books you've collected so far might give you a hint on not dying there. That can go away. A parchment. The Sacrificial Dagger, Otto Stern, Lumina Books. The importance placed on ritual sacrifice is constant in religious cult practice. Game Squad, thank you for that, host. I greatly appreciate it. Propitiating the gods is a theme common to many religions. The Old Testament affords many examples. Primitive polytheistic belief systems integrate sacrifice in their rituals as part of the recurrent process of reaffirmation and, natural enough, group cohesion. The members of the social and religious community come together in an act of purification and atonement. It would be erroneous to imagine the act of human sacrifice, linking priest, offering, and god, C.F. Manzetti, Stone Cults, as anything less than a vital focusing of the group's faith. The act also ensures the continuing appeasement of the god, but only if practiced by a recognized officiating priest using the appropriate instrument. Studies made concerning primitive religious groups bear witness to the central role of sacrifice in living ritual. My own work in the field of ethnopsychology brought me into contact with a sorcerer living in the region of Arkham. He introduced me to the Rite of Steel, linked to a ceremony known as Adoring the Black Goat of the Woods with 1,000 Youngs. The god being adored is known as the Vagabond. Ooh, that sounds useful. Here, the dagger's role, which allows the life breath to pass from one dimension to another, is essential. The Vagabond is a frightening figure, being able to move where he wants and to kill those who have displeased the goat god for whom he acts as go-between. The goat is clearly a fertility god. The priest, having spoken the invocation, must choose the appropriate dagger for the sacrifice. The knife with the sinusoidal blade that must be dipped 7 times on nights when the moon is full in water that has been distilled 100 times will be laid aside, since it would send the vagabond back into his own dimension. The illustration. The priest will rather choose the dagger with the curved blade that is more appropriate for slitting of the lamb's throat. This act transfigures the sorcerer priest and plunges the assembled worshippers into a divine trance. Sends the vagabond back home, you say? I like the sound of that. Let's see. Well, we don't need the parchment anymore. That's the dagger. Let's use it. This is the only weapon that can attack the vagabond. Anything else that you would do would literally pass straight through it as if it isn't there. There's no hit detection on it for anything other than this dagger. That includes walls, as I mentioned earlier. Bye. There we go. He actually did get a hit in, but, yeah. It doesn't do too much damage. The problem is that because he can go through walls and Carnby himself, and he takes up so much space, he can very easily pin you down and then just stun lock you and just keep hitting you and you can't get out. So, with that having been taken care of, can get back in here. We are now free to explore the library. It is safe. Let's get rid of the dagger. Don't need that anymore. And so we don't burn up all the oil, let me grab all the books that are in here and take them outside to read. I believe... should be 4 books total. So there's 1. There's 2. There's 3. And I believe the 4th is actually on the other side. I forget exactly where. Oh, that's not where I meant to go. Oh yeah, we can totally open this now. Yeah, it's around here somewhere. There it is. Okay. Yeah, that book is special because it's red. Alright, so let's grab that lamp again. And get on out of here. 75. Okay, plenty. Absolutely plenty. I actually want to go out the other way. And there we go. Okay. So, a bit of reading. This book being colored differently here, it's red. Yeah, maybe we should go to that spot on the floor in there before we read that one. Or we could do this. Dumb time. Let's read that red book. This is arguably even more entertaining. Yeah, I love the music in this game. Fragments of the Book of Abdul. Like I said, you might want to remember that. It was mentioned earlier. Well, here we go. In the antique city of dead Reliek, Cthulhu dreams and waits. In the pit of time, the unspeakable lies in wait. That is not dead, which can eternal lie. Reliek, your blocks of stone seal the ritual that gives birth to fear. Cthulhu Ftan, yay. Let he who knows how to invoke the stones act. It is time. Let the shadow of Cthulhu darken the sky. May the servitor of the black goat of the woods with 1,000 youngs sound his flute in honor of the unspeakable. Chorus. May he who may not be named cast his withering gaze upon the unbeliever, for he is the door, the key, and the guardian of the door, and holds you now in his immense power. May madness strike down he who reads and thinks he understands. Nobody can pierce the mystery and not pay the price. Nobody can contemplate the face of gods with impunity. If strength abandons he who reads me, then may madness overcome him. That is an amazing set of icons you have there, Binary Spirit. That is fantastic. Oh dear. That little excursion dealt 5 damage. Right, so, I might need that health, so let's load that save back up again. And, not read that book. At least not yet. Let's read some of the other ones. Unfinished Chapter of Terra Incognita by Jacob van Ostad. A hitherto unpublished fragment of the manuscript unearthed following indications furnished in the Vatican Library's Expurgatory Index. It's like the Durai Report. Church keeping things hidden. In those icy and unwelcoming lands, the rites of wizards and healers are deeply rooted in ancient legend. Mysterious and cruel beings are thought to have ruled over the Arctic plains in times past. A cursed city, enclosed by massive walls, is believed to stand to this day. It contains fabulous treasures and is inhabited by the degenerate descendants of those who instilled centuries of terror in the hearts of the people. These people, naturally placid, are seized with rage and horror at the very mention of the prisoners of the ice. Again, reference to the third game they were working on. Were these dreadful captives to be freed from their frozen cells, they would reap a horrifying tribute of human flesh. These blood-curdling beings may be invoked by certain ritual words. They can even be controlled, albeit with the greatest of difficulty. I admit to being impressed by these tales, repeated to me on many occasions and in a number of different places during my travels in the region. I have also seen troubling cult objects sculpted in a material unknown to me. Another remarkable fact is that local Eskimos experience great distaste in pronouncing certain words and invariably avoid saying them. Here is a living example of the power that words contain. As it is said in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. Yeah. Just sort of hinting that certain books can be dangerous. But yeah, a little late for that information. Bye. Let's read this one. I am going to try to get through these relatively quickly. If Rocks Could Talk, or The Story of a Louisiana Plantation by the Marquis de Chamfray. This sounds like it might be useful pertaining to the house here. After the criminal selling off of Florida by the foul usurper, my father elected to remain in this inhospitable land, where we were free at least to express our royalist feelings and hope our country would come to its senses. In 1818, a certain Pickford bought up Ledoux' land after the poor fellow had ruined himself in unfortunate speculation. Pickford soon turned out to be the most loathsome human we had ever encountered. He was an adventurer of the worst kind, nouveau riche and bloated with a grotesque sense of self-importance. First came the incessant army of men with shovels digging into the mountain of earth that was to fill in the surrounding swamp. The undertaking was quite stupendous. I have to say, the letter Q is used an awful lot in the texts in this game. Just disproportionately so. Just more often than the letter Q is usually used. I don't think this was intentional. It's just something that happened. It's just one of those things that strikes me. We learned from a slave that the final objective was to connect the existing caves with another one of gigantic proportions. Racked by a mania of persecution, Elijah Pickford constantly fired his workers and hired new ones. He did all he could to keep anyone from learning about his plans. My father was amused and said the poor fool will end up getting lost in his own cave. The walls went up and tongues started wagging. Our detestable neighbor had been a sailor, a ruffian grown rich on questionable trade. Distasteful stories were told of him. Maybe like he was a pirate? Here, we actually have a floor plan for the house, the first floor. And yeah, it's accurate. When the work was finished, Pickford invited us to the opening of his rambling mansion, which he named Derceto. My father asked what the strange name meant. Pickford answered, Derceto reminds me of Astarte, the fertility goddess. Around here, the name is Shub-Niggurath, I believe. Suddenly, the name of his ship kind of makes sense. Shub-Niggurath, of course, is in the Cthulhu mythos. That a name so steeped in evil should be said aloud came as not such a shock to my father, as he himself confided in me some while later. We left immediately. In June of 1862, Derceto was burned down in unexplained circumstances. It was undoubtedly the deed of some jealous Yankee or another. It was amazing to watch the servants rushing into the flames to try and save their bullet-riddled master. After that terrible night, Derceto fell into ruin. Its blackened walls were soon overgrown, as human-built works always are, by ever-present nature. In 1875, the property was eventually bought by a gentleman whose name was Howard Hartwood. I was sorry that my father, who delighted in fine conversation, was no longer alive to enjoy the company of this new neighbor. Learned and well-versed in history, he had made a particular study of piracy. It was Hartwood who told me that Pickford had commanded a ship that flew the flag of piracy. That explained the scoundrel's great wealth. Yes, exactly, Jesendar, you got it. Which was referenced by that title in several earlier books. Hartwood was fascinated by Pickford and undertook a great deal of research in an attempt to find some treasure that he was convinced the pirate had hidden. He went through the ruins inch by inch. He then had the burnt-out house rebuilt exactly as it had been, and refurbished the library that had miraculously escaped the flames on the night of the Great Fire. Hartwood set about studying every volume in that library and often talked to me of his research. He was a handsome widower, deeply attached to his son Jeremy, who was later to become a professional artist. Hartwood worked incessantly, first from the room I offered him, then from his own freshly restored home, which he rebaptized Derceto. I imagine he hoped to enlist the help of the god of good fortune in his treasure hunt. As far as I have ever been able to tell, all his searching came to nothing. There was no lost treasure to be found at Derceto. I learned of Hartwood's death while I was in Paris. But that, as they say, is another story. There's yet another book we don't need. Occupying space. Getting near the end of this. The Sons of the Sun and of the Shadows, Lieutenant Lope de Vega's account of his astounding travels to the land of the Aztecs. Holy Christ! Cried Captain Cortez, astonished by the strange rite we beheld. We found the savages half naked. They were throwing balls of silver and gold at each other. They laughed as if demented, clearly maddened by some heathen drug. And yet, should one of them fail to catch the ball thrown in his direction, the poor devil was seized and dragged off to be sacrificed in their temple. As we discovered, this frightful game was a ritual most holy to them, and symbolized the movement of the heavenly bodies. The dropping of a ball foretold a catastrophe. That is what the Aztecs believed, in their godless ignorance. Their countless deities could only be appeased through endless human sacrifices. The victim's heart, which was still beating, lay in the hand of the murderous priest. Molarum Sudarum, Molarum Sudarum. The interior of the temple was surprisingly cool. The weight of our armor, our exhaustion, even the burden of our suffering, they were all banished by the sense of awe that the cruelly magnificent altar instilled. In the tomb-like silence, a deep voice chanted an incantation. The majestic statue of the water goddess, I hope I don't butcher this, Chulk. I'm not even trusting myself to start this. Chalchihuitlicu seemed to throb with vitality. This massive stone, draped in a golden cloak and studded with precious stones, was coming to life before our very eyes. Horror of horrors! The granite eyes of the statue, empty of life only moments before, were now injected with blood. We staggered back in amazement. Dom Jose was taken by a fit of convulsions. He tried to raise up his crucifix as if to ward off an attack by demons. The heathen priest laughed cruelly. The statue's mouth cracked open in a deathly grin, baring teeth sharpened to dagger points. Captain Cortez cried, "Attack!" But it was no use. We were glued to the spot. Despite our efforts, we were unable to move. Our armor seemed to be bolted to the temple floor. Our legs weakened and we collapsed in a thunder of steel. Only Cortez had the presence of mind to unsheath his dagger. He hurled it at the cackling priest. 4 inches of the finest Toledo steel buried itself in the heathen's face. His blood spurted, splashing the now lifeless idol. We picked ourselves up with difficulty. Never will I forget that terrible moment. My companions, naturally enough, told tales of devilish enchantments cast upon our armor. Whatever the truth of that, I could not deny that the supreme god of the fourth universe had treated us as mere playthings. I am convinced that a terrible energy is yet contained within that heathen statue, a power strong enough to change a proud conquistador into a helpless puppet. Drawing of Chalchihuitlicu by Dom Jose de la Sierra, done before the destruction of the Aztec temple of Tenochtitlan. And all of that incredibly long text was here just to tell you to throw the statue at the suit of armor. All of that was just for that one purpose. They put far too much effort into certain things in this game. The Sons of the Sun. Let's toss that. And I've got one more parchment here to read. The Book of Yale, Signs of Stone, Eucharistic Rituals of Forbidden Cults. Texts collated by Monsignor Vacher, legate in the Curia of the Vatican. Oh, yeah, they talked about this. Numerous devilish cults speak of monstrous creatures called the Old Ones. These supernatural beings are believed to be possessed of powers equivalent to those of the gods of antique religions. There's another cue. Adepts of such cults refer to forbidden literature in order to... And there was one in Conquistadors as well. Adepts of such cults refer to forbidden literature in order to cause these frightful entities to appear before them. What serious student of folk myths has not come across the names of Cthulhu and Shub-Niggurath? It must be said that these creatures wield tremendous power and are difficult to control once they have been unleashed into the world. Those who serve He Who Goes Into Shadows protect themselves with signs of stone carved into the walls of houses or engraved on various objects. For these misguided servants of evil, the best protection appears to be that afforded by the Sign of the Most Ancient Gods, engraved in Nar stone, a heavy material said to be disagreeable to the touch. Oh, that talisman we'd picked up! The sinful practices of those who fall into such errors can only lead to the darkest of despair and are a mortal danger to the soul. Such monsters as those invoked by these foolhardy individuals are engendered when reason drops its guard. Man is easily tempted into perversion. It is why we must forever remain alert and renounce Satan with each breath we take. His ways are infinite in number. I don't think you can throw a parchment. Indeed not. So we will simply drop it. We've got the room to do that. Oil lamp. We've got the red book. A certain... Oh, Treasures of the Night. That other... can put that one down. Gramophone, lighter, revolver, sword. Okay. We don't need the jug anymore either. That's was needed only for that one task. And yep, that should be good. I feel compelled for a certain sense of completeness. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay. To come back in here. Oops. It's on this side, right? No it isn't. Certain sense of completeness compels me to, go ahead and come back in here. Indeed, you can stand here and read the red book safely. Oh, crap. What? Are you kidding me? I was standing on the pentacle. Is it because he has his foot ever so slightly off of it? Is that what happened? Was I, like, literally 1 pixel away from reading that safely? Oh, well. It doesn't matter. Whatever. Get out of here. Oh, well, at least you got to see that funny animation again. Oh, that was stupid. What was he? Some sort of kamikaze-type person? Well, at least he wasn't a watermelon. So, yeah, I broke the circle. Alright, let's put that oil lamp away. We will need it later. Okay, so this floor now at long last is done. Oh, really? Again? Oh dear. Okay. There would have been a lot of books sitting in that pile. Okay, so that fancy looking key we have, it's time to use that. That was a room off in... Yeah, it's this way. It's this door back here. Here we go. This hidden room serves quite a few purposes. This is the bottleneck, as it were, between pretty much everything we've done so far and the end game section. We do not need that key anymore. I will set that down. There is nothing in this desk here. In fact, it doesn't even react to him searching it. As you can see, it's a 3D object. But pushing it actually doesn't work. At least, not directly. We do some searching, though. Over here, nothing important. Nice painting, but doesn't even react to that. Over here, we have a third record. And a book, because of course. The Tale of Captain J.W. Norton of the Army of the Union. June 17th, 1862. The South was in collapse. Louisiana was open to us. I had each day to requisition victuals for our troops. There's another cue, requisition. And was aided in this endeavor by a score of brave men. The rebels were not yet ready to lay down their arms. The region was far from safe. I headed further and further west and questioned, another cue, many freed slaves. From them I learned of a plantation on the coast. Its name was Derceto. We received a less than hearty welcome. Only Pickford, the owner, behaved in a friendly manner. While my men counted cattle and grain reserves, I learned what I could from him. The man was most unusual and possessed an extraordinarily cultured mind. At nightfall, I gave orders for the men to bivouac at Derceto. Pickford invited my second-in-command, Lieutenant Patterson, and myself to dine. The evening was a splendid... I tried to add an article there. The evening was splendid, and our host proved a most entertaining conversationalist. While coffee was being served, Patterson went to inspect the men's camp. The cigar Pickford offered me was so acrid that my head began to spin. I remembered campfire tales of fellow officers trapped by devilish Confederate tricks. My mind floated in a foul and dense fog from which emerged the enlarged and deformed face of Pickford. He grinned at me. Patterson's return chased off the nightmare. I heard shouts and firing from outside and found the strength to take out my revolver. I fired 3 shots. Pickford fell to the floor. Patterson then helped me out of the burning house. The air was filled with smoke. We resembled a company in disorderly retreat. I saw slaves leaping into the flames of that inferno. They were trying to save Pickford's life. That explains a few things from a little earlier there. Look at this! Obviously, 3D model, shield, and a cutlass. And if we search this, there's a mechanism to trigger. Yeah, well, that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? I believe I have an old cavalry saber sitting here. And there it is. At long last, the tunnels that they were talking about beneath the house are open to us. Also, that looks like a skull and crossbones kind of shape, doesn't it? A Jolly Roger. You know, the skull and crossbones, the shape there, the crossed cutlasses. At any rate, we don't need this book anymore. There is one more thing, however, that we need before we go into the tunnels, and I need just like 30 seconds right now. I will be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Let's get right back into this here. There is one more thing that we need before we go into the tunnels, and as you might imagine, it's that key on that mantle behind the dancers in that album. Is how we get them to move. That is the one they want to hear. Now, this is one of the other things in the game that I might screw up. I really hope I don't. But it could happen. It is non-trivial. Even if I do screw up, there's still a... Oh, that's not the way I want to go. There is still a chance I could salvage it. Ghosts will stay active until they kill you. And they will follow you around the same floor of the house, but they will not change floors. Presumably, one of the safest ways to do this is actually to start near the center, but I'm not used to doing it that way. So I'm actually going to stand back here as I do this to start with. This is Saint-Saëns' Danse Macabre. It's actually they over-translated it, and they actually call it Dance of Death in this game. I have no intentions of picking the gramophone back up again, so you're not going to be seeing the description of the album, which is why I'm telling you now. This is always worrying me. Oh, actually, you do see it there as I try to step away. Saint-Saëns' Dance of Death. Come on, quit your camping. What? Whoa, 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 whoa. Carnby. Carnby. Easy. I'm gonna chicken out and make a safety save here. No, 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 no. Come on. Quit it! Out of my way! Oh, now's my chance. Taking the key! Now I'm actually going to step into the room with the spiders briefly. Or not. The dancers will despawn the moment I get out of the room, now that I have the key. This wall. Carnby, run. There we go. Now back up. There we go. Okay. Whew. That worries me every time. That can stay there. We don't need it anymore. We do not need to return to the house proper until we are ready to exit the front door. Once we have defeated the evil. We are very close to the end now. Now, there are admittedly quite a few ways things could go wrong down here, but I already have safety saves lined up. I'm not too concerned. This bridge looks rickety as hell. And yes, you do need to run. These look like the worm tunnels. I hope we don't run across that worm. Maybe this revolver would be a good thing to arm ourselves with as we march through here. Yeah, there's the worm. But guess what? We need to keep going this way. Oh, boulder, that's a problem. Oi! Hornby, fire! Hornby? What is going on here? I can't believe this. Alright, sword it is. What? What the hell? You've got to be kidding me! You little shit! Well, that's never happened to me before! How much health? I have 6 health left. Hopefully that doesn't prove to be a problem later on. That was really bad. So a new command has appeared here. Jump. Doesn't show up until you're in the caverns. We are about to need it. Turns out there's an interesting bug involving it. I won't be showing that off here. But yeah, go watch the record speedrun and you'll see what it's used for. At any rate, the worm opened up a new path for us. And as you might imagine, that is where we need to go. Not this way. But we actually can peek this way as well. In case you were curious. That looks, potentially precarious. Well, as it turns out, that is actually the way we need to go. Oh dear, am I about to crash the game? No, okay. What you just saw there was the worm, which is still marching through the tunnels. If I were playing as Emily Hartwood right now, that would have crashed the game. For some reason, it doesn't affect Carnby. Oh! It goes to the same place. Go figure. Well, I guess we're just gonna have to jump down there. More monster music. Oh dear. Yep, there's a deep one. But that's actually not an issue at all. Because we don't have to leave the water. What the? What just hit me? What just hit me? The game is completable with Emily, yeah. I have no idea what just happened. Literally none. Huh. Well, that's okay, because I have safety saves all over the place. Okay, so we are beyond the bridge. I have 7 health here. Oh my word. Well, I finished the game 1cc on the save before, so, where's that revolver? Oh, I'm carrying quite a few more things this time around, aren't I? But that's okay. Maybe I should try to run around this guy first. Or not. I'm having great trouble here. What? Okay, hold on a second. What is going on here? Of course it's when I'm live, right? I swear that when I made these safety saves, I actually 1cc'd the game. I had no deaths whatsoever. But, maybe I should just start with the sword. The revolver does not seem to be getting the job done for me. There we go. Am I hitting a wall or something? Alright, I have no idea what's happening here either. We can't seem to hit each other at all. Let me try the sword. Maybe I can reach through. Saw it here first. I do not know what's going on. Ugh. This game is being mean to me. Okay, that's not gonna... -2? I can't believe this is happening. Come on! I did not budget time for this to happen. Alright, no more Mr. Goodbar. Screw you! Oh, weird. I've got this thing going again? Alright, you know what? Fine. Fine, I don't have to kill this guy. Uh-oh. Run, Carnby. Carnby? I cannot believe this is happening to me right now. Next I'll end up in my Oceania XCOM base! Oh, man. It's funny because it's true. Or maybe. Yeah, this was not something I was anticipating having trouble with. Guess what? I can cheese it out. Should have just done that in the first place. Safety strats. And there goes the worm. Okay. Should have just done that to begin with. Now maybe, just maybe, Carnby won't magically die in this back corner for no good reason. Yeah, this bridge doesn't look safe, does it? There we go. The cartridges are wet. Now, I actually could have jumped over that, but it also doesn't matter too much. Whatever, he can't reach up here. So, by falling into the water... what? Get up there, Carnby. Let's try putting the sword away. Now the game's being really weird. This is where I'm supposed to be. There we go. What the hell? Alright, this mysterious creature here. This, I'm sure I will be able to use the revolver on. Nope, that's the wall. That's still the wall. R&B. There we go. shots all it takes. Okay. Much better. I think I'm going to, make another safety save, the way things have been going. Okay. That was so freaking weird. I don't know what was going on there. You actually can barely see it, but there's another wall here. Sort of a door with a mechanism to trigger. I don't have what I need to trigger that. So let's just keep going this way for now. And here we have a jumping puzzle. We've also got some weird insect-bird hybrid thing floating around, and we should probably deal with that first and foremost. And down it goes. Okay. Great. The, platforms tend to be pretty lenient when it comes to these jumps, but, they scare me every single time. I try to step forward and back a few times and make sure I'm lined up properly. I liked it better that way. It's not over if I hit the water or anything. You actually can make the jump between these two platforms, but it's kind of close. It's better to go this way. Now again, you could actually go into the water, and there's a separate route to go to where you want to. And given that I've already hit the water, it actually wouldn't penalize me all that much if I did. There we go, made it. The penalty for hitting the water is that your rifle ceases to function. And if your lamp was on, it gets turned off, and... actually I have less oil in it this time around, but that's fine. Your matchboxes will cease to function as well, but that's what the lighter is for. And of course the revolver will still work just fine, even after you've hit the water. So that's the importance of that. You want to use your projectile weapons, use the rifle early. Looks like there might be a path that goes that way, but nope. Okay, now, remember that song from that book? About, like, you see a skull go to port, a saber to starboard, and, cut the right rope. That is what we're about to be tested on here. Fun time! So, I'm supposed to go right at this fork in the road. If I go left... Dun 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 dun! That spider is completely invincible. And he can, kill you pretty quickly. Or, you can run around him and instead die in his hole. Whichever you prefer. At any rate, let's load that back up again and go the way we're supposed to go. Oh, looks like we are getting somewhere, doesn't it? Oh, we've got another one of those insects floating around. Amusingly, I still have bullets in my revolver. Huh, a saber planted in the ground. skull to port, a saber to starboard. They're giving us directions to get through this maze. Essentially, some of these bridges, some of these catwalks, will collapse under his feet. This is the one to the right of the saber, if you look at Hornby's perspective, so this is the way to go. That was a nice, solid bridge we just walked across. And I'm now going to get rid of this damn fly thing, maybe. Wow, my aim is horrible tonight. I suppose it's not strictly necessary, but it does concern me. What? You were off by that much? Oh gosh. How many bullets do I even have left at this point? 3. And it takes 2 to kill it. It takes him so long to actually pull the trigger once I've lined it up. Nope. Oh well. Well, we see a saber there, so we turn right. And the skull. We turn left. Maybe he'll get close enough for me to use the sword. You can actually sort of, yeah, hop up here. Oh, he's doing that thing again. Oh, he's up top, okay. Skull, we go left. Across the center here. Good enough. Good enough. And a sword. We go right. Oh dear. Did I just seriously fall all the way down? Yes, I did. I am in so much trouble right now. Oh, looks like I'm close enough to... Nope. Damn it! Sorry everybody. I can't believe this is happening. I practiced. I had this game aced, and now I'm just... Yeah. Alright, well, we can just hustle along here pretty quickly. Although I don't want to fall again. I'm not even gonna waste my time with that damn thing. Unless it forces me to, which I think it just did. Yep. Alright, Cornby, how about you not hit the water this time? That would be fantastic. There you go. They will spawn a deep one, but that's okay. Yeah. I might actually want to do a speed run of this at some point, if I actually learn how. Okay, so let's carefully walk across here, because I don't want any more accidents. Okay, here we are. Yeah, so I'm gonna end up going a little over time. My apologies for that. That happens when you're doing something like this live. There's that key we got from the ballroom. This is where we use it. You find a gem. Pirate's treasure. And, of course, a book. Because of course we do. Memoirs of a Lost Soul. The mask must fall. You who discover this manuscript, understand this. I am here at your side. I am waiting in the darkness of my crypt. Soon you will belong to me. One of my slaves wrote this document. I have lived for 3 centuries, and my name is Ezekiel Prext, or Elijah Pickford. You may choose which to call me. I do not hide out of fear. My power is immense. I have sailed the 7 seas. My ship, the Astartes, spread terror through all the continents. The corsairs judged me like the Welsh judges of 1620, but they could not destroy me, and neither could the pirates. Now I am immobilized. Damned Yankees! Witchcraft, voodoo, the Cthulhu cult, I know them all. I have reigned and implored the stones. Only the Chthonian haunts the cavern and resists me, but he dare not attack. I have need of a living body to regenerate myself. The Heartwoods managed to escape from me, but you who are reading these words, you will yield to my embrace. I hear your ragged breath and smell the stench of your fear. I have vanquished death. I built Derceto. I know what it is to wait. Cthulhu helps me. My servants will lay you upon the sacrificial stone. My roar will rend the night. You will be mine, and I shall reign once more. Come to me. So there we have it. All that talk about stones making sense. All the dots have been connected now. Alright. Well, and that explains what happens in the game over screen when they're dragging you through to the altar. Yep. Filling in for him. Oh! Because none of them are human. It's not exactly the same thing, I think. I don't even know. At any rate, we've got one more thing to push. Here we go. Final challenge awaits. Over this way lies a locked door of sorts. A mechanism to trigger. Again, we don't have what we need for that yet. If you watched the game over screen carefully when he was laid upon the altar, you may have noticed there was something else sitting on the altar next to Carnby. A pirate's hook. We are actually just going to magically grab that when we get near there. And that hook is what we need to get through these doors, in case you were wondering. This room is in the dark. Lamp is off. Let's use the lighter. And here we are in, unfortunately, a maze. And this is where you are essentially tested on how much oil you've got in the lamp. It's not difficult. I don't really have the path memorized or anything. You can just very easily hug this wall and it will get you where you need to go in time. Just as long as you run. One thing I do remember, though... Oh, wait a minute, that's... No. I do want to go that way. Come on, Carnby, run. There we go. Hugging the wall. It's down this way. May as well show you. This is a cul-de-sac. I didn't actually have to come down that way. So if you're hugging the wall, yeah, you can actually skip that part. We are almost through this, by the way. That's actually a odd little dead end. You can skip that too. Oops. And I think the exit's right here. Yep. Well, if we want to deal with the evil, we're going to have to surrender that gem. Goes in there. And there it is! The tree from the painting in the gallery. And the altar right in front of him. This is the final challenge of the game, and if you saw, remember that painting, it's on fire. That's what we need to do. But there is one sort of additional step, because this is a pretty evil thing that we're dealing with. If we just straight up throw the lantern at the tree, it will bounce off. And then we're going to have to find it in the water. And all the while, deep ones will be spawning and chasing us. And perhaps more importantly, Prext himself will be shooting fireballs out at us. I do believe I have a safety save here already. Oh, I did. But it was in the very first slot. I will restore it, as it were. Final challenge. Okay. Of course, this is already not a 1cc, but here goes. Once I get down off of this ledge that I am on, it is on. Prext is going to start shooting at us. We have to get up to the altar in front of him. The hook will be there. We will grab it. Set the talisman we have down onto the altar. That will essentially stop his power from working. He will no longer shoot fireballs. And then we set him on fire. This is usually not too difficult, but I don't want to take any unnecessary chances with it. And we deke! And we get there, we take the hook. And where's the talisman? Drop put. Yeah, you don't like that, do ya? I didn't think so. Let's make sure we're facing him. And throw the lamp at him. Unbreakable glass, my arse, and good thing. Toasty! But it's not over yet. Now we gotta get the hell out of here. And the place is literally falling apart. But we don't have to go all the way back the way we came, because now we have that hook. And there's a convenient set of shortcuts for us to take. You might remember this hallway. This is the one that we got dragged down during the game over screens. Open sesame. No, we can go this way. This is the start of the maze. It has actually now been illuminated. Apparently the darkness had something to do with Prext. This is another door that we can sneak through using the hook. And now we come out here, where we fought that spider beast. But, yeah, there's no bridge. Oh, actually, no. I'm thinking of a different room. Yeah, we can go back out this way. Oh, whoops. No, 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 no. Really, Carnby? Okay. All enemies have been removed from the house. There are no more deep ones to worry about, with Prex's power having been eliminated. There is nothing left to get in our way. Not even that spider will show up, although we could still kill ourselves down its hole. The Chthonian has left. It's long gone. And that is actually the fastest way out. You might remember that this is the way the Chthonian came from when we first had to run from it. We can go out through here. This, as you might recall, it's the wine cellar opening. Even the rats have abandoned ship, as they often do. And now there is nothing else left to do but march straight out that front door. Because I used that save, all that stuff I dropped right here is no longer present. I can just walk straight out. It is still possible to fail the game after defeating Prext. Like, well, those boulders that fall actually can hit you. You could jump down the spider hole, or go back up to the attic and jump through the floorboards there. Or you can read either of the deadly books and kill yourself here. But, yeah, all the other monsters are gone. And the game is won as soon as we step out the door. Frederick Reynal, big fan of horror movies, just couldn't resist. He just had to throw in that cliche ending. Phantasmagoria next! I don't know, Throwback Thursday. I don't think it's that worthy, but, I have it! I could play through it, in theory. And this is the final music track of the game playing, of course. So, as I advertised... there was one other thing that I wanted to read to you from the strategy guide. I will do that right now. This will totally spoil the ending that you just saw there. In a section called The Hero. If you've played Alone 1, you may be asking, what about the heroine? There's a rumor that says Miss Hartwood may be making a return appearance in Alone 3, and this book actually does cover the original game and the sequel, but it came out before the third game did. And as it turns out, Miss Hartwood does apparently appear in Alone 3, from what I've heard. Anyway, however, when you've read the story behind the Carnby character, you'll agree the real hero of the series could not be anyone else. In August 1991, an Infogrames idea person, Frenchwoman Sylvie Mensonger, went to the US on vacation to look up distant cousins. The ancestors of those relatives, whose family name is Claporte, settled outside Moreau, Louisiana, more than 2 centuries ago. Their descendants are still there today. Moreau is a small community south of Thibodaux. The senior member of the clan is a snowy-haired gentleman, Clarence H. Claporte, who was born in April 1911 to Moreau. What am I saying? That was horrible. Let's try that again. Who was born in April 1911 in Moreau. He was more than willing to act as Mensanger's guide to the area. I seem to keep jumping lines when it comes to prepositions and articles when I'm reading. I should get that looked into. During a trip around the Moreau area, Mensanger and Cloport happened to drive past the ruins of a burnt-out old mansion standing at the edge of the bayou, some 15 miles out of town. It was called Derceto, and it had an unusual history. By the time Clarence had finished his tale, Mensanger knew she was onto something. The story told of a family of mysterious origins and frightening events ending in the tragic and unexplained suicide of the young owner of the big house, one Jeremy Hartwood. The county records and the old newspapers even describe a detective named Edward Carnby, who spent a night in the old house shortly after the suicide. At the time, he was believed to be trying to quash local rumors that the house was haunted so it could be put on the market with some hope of being sold. Carnby's own papers prove that his intention was quite different. As for the house, it was sold to an architect several years later. One detail, however, was recorded only in Mr. Cloport's memory. Early in the morning, after the night Carnby visited Derceto, Clarence, aged 13, was minding the family store when a man with a mustache stumbled in and asked to use the telephone. Mr. Cloport remembers the incident because the man looked like he'd been, quote, fighting gators all night, unquote, and because the phone call to a Mrs. Allen was about Derceto. The man wanted to know if Mrs. Allen had sent the car and chauffeur to pick him up when he left the old house. She apparently said she hadn't, and that didn't seem to surprise the stranger. He said he was lucky to be alive. It seems clear that the caller was Carnby, who had a mustache at the time. Alone One uses that detail. The scriptwriters back at Infogrames agreed. This was too good to miss. The haunted house story is always powerful. With a true-to-life hero and Cthulhu, it makes quite a package. The Derceto player's visit in Alone One could not be a detailed recreation of the real house. Too much was lost and too many trails had gone cold. But this Derceto is faithful enough to history to give the game an added dimension. Reality. To the best of my knowledge, that is total bullshit. Written entirely for the game. But maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Oh, Eternal Darkness. Oh my word. I do have that. I never did finish that game. That would be a fascinating one to look into. Yeah, Phantasmagoria is a fairly straightforward, perhaps even bland adventure game for the first 6 of its 7 CDs, and then the last one, it gets gruesome. It gets a little brutal during the chase. But it is a fascinating little deal. Alone in the Dark. Tiny little book here. This game was more than just the originator of the survival horror genre. This was literally the originator of the 3-dimensional protagonist. To be fair, you've got Out of This World, which was indeed an inspiration for this game, which of course was a 2-dimensional game, although it used vector animations for its characters. So that sort of planted the seed for Frederick Raynal to try to create a 3D utility. He had made a game called Alpha Waves, which was based on basic 3-dimensional movement, and that was published by Infogrames. Interesting little agreement that they had there. And then he ended up working on the engine, trying to improve it and get to where he could model human-looking characters and objects for the game. Wasn't able to get things to where, the entire game would be in 3 dimensions. The backgrounds are still hand-drawn art. But then again, this was back in the era of the 386. So, probably just as well that they didn't stress CPUs at the time too much. Yeah, the demo, as I mentioned earlier on, just absolutely amazed me at just the very armadillo spinning at the beginning. And the logo was just like, whoa! Holy crap! Back in 1992, that really was amazing. People had never seen that before. 3D was starting to become a thing. You know, you've got Wolfenstein 3D and whatnot, which has, well, all the characters are sprites. The walls are, the maze itself is essentially in 3 dimensions. It wasn't until Doom, which I do believe was slightly later. Shame on me for not remembering the year. I want to say 94, but let me double check that real quick. I feel as though I would be, This is one of those things that I really shouldn't misspeak on. 93, actually. Doom was 1993. 1 year after this. I should probably check on Wolfenstein real quick. That, I want to say, was... that was actually 92. That was the same year as this, just earlier. I want to say this was released around August, and Wolf 3D came out in May. They were probably developed concurrently, or fairly close to one another. So you've got Wolfenstein 3D, where all the characters are still sprites. All the objects are sprites and whatnot, but you have an actual, like, 3-dimensional wall and movement. And this, of course, was carried forward into Doom, which also still uses sprites. But now you have a more proper 3-dimensional looking world. Even though it's still essentially a flat map. You can't have a walkway go over another one. There's no bridges in Doom. There are platforms that raise up and down to allow you to walk across gaps, but otherwise there's no spot where you can go underneath something else. That wasn't until Duke Nukem 3D, I think, or somewhere around there. But as far as games other than shooters having 3-dimensional elements, yeah, that's Alone in the Dark. That is where it started. The concept of the 3-dimensional game came from here, where all the characters and the objects came from Alone in the Dark. Pretty much the exact opposite. It's like all the backgrounds are art, all of the objects, characters, everything you fight with, that's all 3-dimensional constructs. And, of course, today's modern games pretty much, they do both. They put them together because computers can do both now. They've been able to do both for quite some time. So, yeah, so there you have it. Ah, is that how they handled it? Yeah. And Rise of the Triad, yes, with its elevator platforms that you actually, they do actually move up and down. You can get underneath them. Yeah. Yeah, Rise of the Triad is very often overlooked. I have been meaning to get back into that game for quite some time, and I would love to do some streaming of that once I become a little more practiced in it again. But yes, Alone in the Dark is often left out of lists of games of the most influential order. When it comes to games that are like the most influential, that have had the greatest impact on the industry, people will tend to think of, well, Pac-Man and Donkey Kong tend to come to mind pretty quickly. And then Doom usually comes fairly quickly thereafter. Alone in the Dark is right up there. As far as the games themselves in their own series are concerned, they've clearly become eclipsed. Frederick Reynal actually became rather disappointed in his own game as he was trying to bug fix it at the end. And when he, by the time the game was going to be released, he was really not so enthused about it and actually thought it would fail, and it didn't. This game sold, I want to say, about 2.5 million copies. That was in the early 90s. That was a ridiculous windfall. And the game would have credited him as originally, the credit screen said a Frederick Reynal creation. But that ended up sort of getting downgraded to realized and directed by. So he kind of sort of tanked his own credit, as it were. He did the 3D engine himself, as well as, creating the characters and whatnot. He put a lot of work into that game, only to kind of get frustrated with it by the end of the project. But obviously, it was a great surprise. Everybody was happy with how well the game did. Bruno Bonnell, president of Infogrames at the time, wanted to get sequels out as quickly as possible. And that meant not bothering to update the engine at all. And that really irritated Frederick Reynal, because that was the number one thing he wanted to do. He wanted to make it better. He wanted to get it to the point where the backgrounds could be three-dimensional as well. The entire game done that way. And over that disagreement, he ended up leaving the company and forming his own sort of studio underneath Delphine. I'm not terribly familiar with them myself, but the game Little Big Adventure, I believe that's the name, and its sequel, that's what they were doing over there. That became their thing. Yeah. Yeah, Mario, Sonic, yeah, there you go. How influential Sonic has been is kind of, it's obviously Super Mario Brothers was enormous. That really did define a genre in and of itself. Arguably, Metroid added enough to the aspect in order for it to also be included. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, you'd have to go that further ahead into Castlevania to where you get to something that's also sort of an influential title. Goodness knows the design of that game's been duplicated enough. But yeah, Alone in the Dark really is a top-tier game when it comes to the influence it has had on the video game industry. It really cannot be understated. Even though today people don't think of the Alone in the Dark series as being anything particularly interesting, and indeed, we've got the Resident Evil series, which started with pretty much a clone of Alone in the Dark, and then took off from there, and you've got Silent Hill and whatnot. They all have this humble floppy disk to thank for where it all started. Alone in the Dark, disc 1 of 4. Right there. That is how it all began. That is also where this episode of Throwback Thursday ends. As far as when more Throwback Thursdays will happen, what I've come to realize is that the ones where I just sort of pick a general theme and like take requests or whatever, those that aren't well researched just aren't as interesting or entertaining as the other episodes that I do. So it's probably going to remain relatively few and far between, although hopefully not this long of a gap. Maybe if I can do one a month, that would be really nice. Of course, the way things are in my life right now, the specter of needing to move looming over me, it's not going to be the easiest of times for me to try to get in the research that I would feel I would need to do in order to properly put one of these together. But I will try. I will try to make these happen a bit more readily. What I would love to do a future Throwback Thursday on would be to touch on some of the other games produced by iMotion. The other two, Alone in the Darks, which I would not play through in their entirety, but I would show off some things, maybe the more interesting parts. Of course, Jack in the Dark, which I could go through in its entirety. And also, there was a game that was hopefully going to be part of a series, but never made it past the first game. The engine was slightly updated for this one. It's called Knight's Chase, and it was the last game that iMotion made using the Alone in the Dark engine, or its successor. And also, what's that other one? Yeah, there's a rail shooter called Chaos Control that I'm actually rather fond of. And once I get a little better at that, you'll probably see me stream that outside of a Throwback Thursday anyway. I've been trying to get better at that. Yes, Elite was a very, very influential game. That certainly fits the list too. Yep. That's one that I've spent very little time with myself. I want to say like 5 minutes tops, but I know how important it is. It really is up there on the list. I had a good list of these games somewhere at one point. I know I actually tweeted it at one point, but that's buried in my archive somewhere. I'm sure I'll find it eventually if I keep looking for it. But at any rate, yeah, I have nothing further for you this evening, so I will be looking for a host target. But yeah, I am hoping to be able to sort of open up the doors to Throwback Thursday a bit more often. I really do consider it the most important work I do as I'm streaming here. Again, my apologies for the lost time. I don't know why I kept missing all of my shots and having all those issues. I do hope at some point to have a proper 1cc streamed. Oh, thank you so much for that cheer. I greatly appreciate that, Snap. It does mean a lot to me. Nice to know nice to know I'm getting something for this work I'm putting in. But yeah, I do apologize for my failures there. That was unexpected. It was looking so good too, and then for some reason I just couldn't seem to. It's just major sticking points there. I don't know if I'll actually learn the proper any percent speedrunning route. Really, do look that up, because that is very entertaining. Oh, and before I forget, I have one very, very important link to share with you all. I mentioned that if you are more knowledgeable of Greek mythology and whatnot, there'll be extra dots that you can connect, extra bits of information they buried into the backstory, and lots of other little tidbits too, hidden in the game. Someone on the game's 20th anniversary, I believe it was, so in 2012, who goes by Mr. Podoboo on YouTube, put together the best researched treatise on a video game I have ever seen. His humbly named Let's Play of Alone in the Dark is an absolutely amazing, astonishingly thorough work, and I cannot recommend it enough. And I am going to put into chat right now his playlist for the videos that he put together for this. Obviously, much of it you would have already seen from what I did, but if you want to take the time to watch that, he goes into a lot more. He doesn't read all the story. He just mentions the good parts when you get to a book, what's meaningful. And he goes into a lot more depth, and I mean a lot more, when it comes to the game's backstory, connecting the dots. He goes through the game in what might be called story order, sort of learning about information and solving the puzzles as you get the information for them. And the best part are the appendices to the various chapters that he put it. He assembled the whole thing into chapters because there's so many books in the game. He copied that literary conceit through, as it were. He put together a number of appendices to the chapters where he shows off a lot of really fun, interesting things. Like the character deaths are some of them. His actual run is flawless. But also some very interesting stunts that you can pull, such as getting the zombies in the dining hall to kill each other. It's a fascinating little excursion that he does, and he even includes sort of a, shall we say, exercise in sequence breaking at the end of it. Sequence breaking for the sake of sequence breaking, really. That's actually in the style of a choose your own adventure, that there are several unlisted videos that get linked to, and you choose which one to go to. Beyond that, the other thing that I would recommend to you, and I have already actually, would be a speedrun or two of the game. Watching Carnby or Emily just climb up the outer wall of that dark maze, and then clearly hit the water, and then march around in the muck, completely ignoring everything that you see on the screen. It's actually very entertaining. And they get through the game pretty quick. You might be surprised. There's some very amusing clips and whatnot included in that, so I would recommend that as well. But there's several of those, so I will leave you to find them for yourself. I didn't dig up the links for those to share them with you. But that playlist, if you are interested in seeing more about this game, and he knows a lot of information about the design of the game, things internal to the code and whatnot. He's apparently done quite a bit of research into this. I cannot recommend that enough. That really is one of the... what I could do here in the last 4 hours live is really only just a small shadow, I feel. There's still... Well, I feel like I covered the most of it. I got a lot of the good stuff in the game, but there's still quite a few treasures to be found if you dig a little deeper, and he's done that work for you. I cannot recommend that enough. Alright, I have nothing further for you. I actually mean that this time. I can't believe I almost forgot to mention that playlist, because that really is incredible. This individual has no idea I have done this tonight, no idea I've mentioned this, but yeah, to be completely fair, I want to say that maybe, I didn't actually count, but maybe 5 things that I did tonight I didn't know about until I saw that. One I actually mentioned on the way, that was putting the pot of soup on the dining room table. I learned that from Mr. Podoboo here. I did not know about that. All the other actual puzzle solutions I knew about. Some of the other little tidbits about the game that I have mentioned, I sort of gleaned from there. But as far as actual game mechanics is concerned, yeah, that was the big thing that I didn't know about. I was like, holy crap, you've got to be kidding me. So that's what the pot of soup is for. Okay, I will, let's see. Okay. I will look for somebody to send us off to. But for those of you who are watching this on the VOD, and of course I will be holding on to this forever and ever, if possible, and for those of you not still sticking around, take care. Enjoy yourselves. Never forget to play. And I will catch you next time. Oh, that